what she said.
Oh gosh.
I'm not trying to be rude or nothing. I'm just telling you that's what she said.
You look
She
exactly
said,
like the type of dude who would say exactly that.
In this kind of voice right here.
Yes.
This is just who I am.
Unfortunately.
My name is Gerald.
Gerald.
You could follow.
Okay, so here we go. This is your Gerald and I'm Martha.
We have a YouTube channel where we talk about conspiracy theories.
I actually don't talk about that. I talk about my muffins. I make muffins.
Way to yes and me real hard there.
I'm
the
sorry.
one rule of improv.
I'm better at I'm better than that.
You always do this to me, Martha. You always do this to me every time.
I know I do. I don't really care. Gerald and Martha.
Gerald and Martha, this is Gerald and Martha. We're going through a little personal troubles right now, but
he doesn't do the things that I like him to do,
such as take the dog out,
the garbage,
wash the car.
What? Gerald, go wash the car.
I refuse to go to the unemployment office.
You're unemployed. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, but I don't want that. I don't want to be in their system.
You know, if you have a smartphone, you're already in the systems.
It's a stupid phone, though.
It's smarter than you.
How can a phone be farther than me?
Ta-da!
We've
this
peaked.
Is the best
We've peaked.
Bit.
I'm so glad I started recording.
When did you start and when did you stop? Or are you still going?
This is still going. This is too good to stop. Gerald doesn't know how to stop. He just waits until everything dies.
Gerald is basically dead inside.
Gerald doesn't remember a time when he was alive inside.
There was one time, I think we went to the zoo and we saw the butterflies.
Yeah, Gerald ate the butterflies. Gerald also speaks to himself in the third person.
It's kind of weird. You know, when we got married, I didn't realize that this was going to be a thing.
Gerald started doing this the week after we got married.
It's because I don't talk to him, apparently.
Gerald is lonely.
Gerald, what am I?
Martha, we've been over this. You're Martha.
Accurate.
Martha! We gotta save Martha!
Everybody has to save Martha.
Have you not seen Batman vs. Superman? It was pretty bad. We're recording at my parents' house right now.
Yeah.
We are starting to see the effects of the coronavirus on everybody. Thank you to my mom and my dad for allowing us to record here.
The mom, not my mom.
So,
yes.
This week
Aye, Captain.
On Let's Watch Something,
Mm-hmm.
We're watching Murder by Numbers.
And not the Police song. You don't understand that reference, and I love the fact that your face went absolute blank. So, the band The Police, which is led by that guy Sting. Remember that guy? Past tense, Stung. So, there's a song by The Police called Murder by Numbers. It's a little reggae tune, which this has pretty much absolutely nothing to do with. I just wanted to throw that out there that I knew that there was a song by The Police called Murder by Numbers.
The only Police album that I own is a vinyl copy of Synchronicity. This is what I like about having a Chromebook, is it's easy to Google shit. So yeah, Murder by Numbers, the dark and gritty retelling of The Count from Sesame Street. Big Bird.
A one, a two, a three bodies I can fit in my closets.
Big Bird is a detective. He is investigating the disappearance of Elmo's father, who
obviously
very deep reference. Elmo was the baby monster, so Elmo's father was just a bigger Elmo with like a weird, like one of these kinds of voices.
Oh.
And there was like, he was teaching his son how to use the potty like a big boy. It was just kind of like that. But then Elmo got really popular, and then his father disappeared. And in the wake of his disappearance, Big Bird is on the hunt. And this is when we get to the Murder by Numbers with the Count. At least that's what I think. How close am I?
Actually, you basically summed up the entire movie. I don't believe you've never seen this.
All right. See you next week. All right. For realsies, though. Let's get into this, man. We will be back after a short break to discuss Murder by Numbers.
Love it.
What is your history with the movie Murder by Numbers?
Oh, fuck me. So I was a little obsessed with Michael Pitt after the whole Hedwig stuff. So I started researching online more things about Michael Pitt, right? And I came across some fan fiction.
Oh, fan fiction is always so wholesome.
No, this shit had tons of butt sex.
Wholesome butt sex.
Full, filled holes, buttholes filled.
So Michael Pitt plays
yes.
Justin in Murder by Numbers.
He's my boyfriend in my heart.
He's, as I would describe, a little trollish looking.
Fuck you. You said he's a sexy little goblin.
Exactly. A sexy goblin. He's attractive in a greasy and bug-eyed kind of way.
I'm into it.
With puffy
like
lips. Pillow lips.
Shut up. That was the website I used to frequent when I would I would go and look at all his pictures and print them off of my and stick them in my locker.
And, this is just doing a disservice to the true heartthrob of the movie.
Fuzzy Nipples?
I completely blanked on his name. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
No.
No?
Ryan Gosling?
Ryan Gosling. Wow. I just got done with working a full 8-hour shift at McDonald's, okay? Ryan Gosling plays... Richard Haywood. Haywood, you blow me.
Haywood, you blow me?
That comes from Hamlet, too. That's a good movie, too.
I think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's Michael Coogan. Steve Coogan. Wow, I'm really bad at this tonight.
You're bad at names. I'm surprised you remember mine.
Shut up. Jonathan.
Hello, I am Jonathan.
Jonathan Richard Stevenson's the third here. The other important character in this movie is played by Sandra Bullock. Bullock.
Don't even say the vowels. Bullock.
Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
Bullock. She plays a police officer named Cassie.
Detective
Cassie. Named Cassie
Mayweather.
Cassie Mayweather.
Cassie
who is
fucking Mayweather. She is called the hyena because she had false dick.
It's not a very good reason to have a nickname.
Basically, they're just saying she acts like a dude.
Yeah, which is a trope that I've never been a big fan of, being one of the guys, a woman that has to be one of the boys.
I don't think she has to be. I think she just was like, she's not one of the guys because she's not like buddies with them. They all fucking hate her.
She's not trying to be one of the guys. She is just a strong and independent woman who don't need no man.
She forcibly doesn't need a man. She fucking fucks and bails.
Well, yeah, that's because she has some trauma behind her. Throughout this movie, she's investigating the murder of a woman named Olivia Lake. And we are getting flashbacks of Sandra Bullock's character to a case that she was involved in with a man named Carl Hudson.
Carl!
And a woman who was found in a bag down by the river.
In a bag down by the river!
And the woman that was in the bag was still alive. And we're getting this back and forth of this case and of the case of Carl Hudson, who is now up for parole. And
they request her at the hearing.
The parole hearing, which I thought was weird, but apparently
it happens.
It's not that uncommon.
Sometimes they ask the a cop or a detective or someone who worked on the case to come and look and see, like, hey, what's your opinion on this shit?
Is this man worthy of coming back into society?
Nope.
Now that's the entire B plot of Cassie. This whole time they're investigating this murder. Mm-hmm. We are following Justin and Richard as these two people who don't even talk to each other in high school are apparently super close friends with a weird little pact between them.
They're in love. I sincerely believe that they're in love in like
the
most twisted and fucking unhealthy way. But, well, I think Richard is absolutely in love with him.
Yes.
Because he's all sorts of jealous and like, you fucker, I saw you fuck her. Oh, that's my boy. No, he doesn't say that part, but...
So, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, Justin and Richard murdered a woman and planted evidence of... Yeah, we'll get to it later.
Forensic evidence.
They planted forensic evidence, and the entire time, the detective Cassie and Sam, these two detectives are on the case, and they're playing into everything that they're setting up.
For the most part.
For the most part. There's boot prints that in an earlier scene, Justin was like, oh, your boot prints would be traced to you in a matter of hours because Richard wears $600 boots.
VG boots. What the fuck are VG boots is what she says.
Couldn't get Gucci.
They couldn't, probably get the rights to using the Gucci name.
Who knows? Maybe VG really is
a thing,
and we just don't know.
2002.
Sure.
Let's play along with it.
The cops have tracked down the boots, obviously, because they're a unique pair of boots to Richard, and they're investigating Richard about this case at school. And he's like, "Is this about my boots? Did you find them? Because I reported them missing 2 weeks ago."
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
I know this movie by heart. I've seen it so many times that you can.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm really glad we lost a lot of the footage, the audio, because remembering the movie yesterday, I'm enjoying it retroactively.
You're enjoying it, thinking about it?
Yeah,
I enjoy thinking about things too.
It's
like chocolate.
I'm thinking about it, and it's like
not the chocolate that was in your bag.
I was harsh on this movie.
You were angry.
I was real angry about losing audio at the time. I was grumpy as heck. This entire time, Cassie, as a good detective, thinks that something doesn't really make a lot of sense.
She thinks that Richard is involved, and she is fucking right, but nobody believes her.
Correct. Because
standard trope.
Richard is so confident and cocky in this police interview.
She wants to belt him in the face.
I mean, who didn't at that moment?
I wanted to belt him the entire movie, except for when he was, caressing Justin.
Ooh, yeah, that was creepy.
All I wanted to do was, in my head, I'm just like, just fucking kiss him already, you stupid little bitch.
After a certain point, Cassie is kind of pushed away from the case as Sam is kind of taking it over because she's getting a little too emotionally attached.
Sam being her partner. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah, we mentioned he was involved.
And the fuzzy nipples.
The fuzzy nipples.
Him's got some fuzzy nipples.
Them fuzzy nips are involved with Sandra Bullock.
I hate the term nips.
So I do really like Cassie's subplot, except for the weird romantic and sexual stuff going on. It's a little forced.
It is a little forced, but at the same time, I feel like it's part of her. You know how you mentioned you like showing, not telling?
Yeah.
But they do both in this. You get close to someone, then you push them away. And then they show that she gets close to someone, pushes them away.
Literally pushed him out of the bed.
Yeah, I've done that.
And,
a few times.
Other than that minor aspect, I really did like Sandra Bullock's arc of this movie.
I honestly would have preferred if the movie was more about the boys, though.
Oh yeah, you could probably make a series out of this with Justin and Richard.
Oh God, I would watch the fuck out of that hard.
Episode 1, they kill the chick. Rest of the season is Sandra Bullock and dancing around all this evidence with these two boys and them setting her up, and it'd be really good as a series. I don't know who they'd get to play the characters now.
Yeah, because they aged.
Tom Holland would be one of them because he's in everything now.
He's so cute.
You think a baby. You think he could play Justin?
No, I wouldn't want him to be Justin. I want someone a little darker and edgier.
Richard and Justin's characters are what make this movie go from just a generic cop movie into being its own unique thing. And that's something that I didn't give it enough credit for. It's pretty unique considering it's just a cop thriller.
Yeah.
We are following,
these two high school students who fucking committed murder.
That's what makes it special.
They're high school boys.
They're kids.
So they're kind of based on, so I read up a little bit about this. They're loosely based off of a real case. Leopold and Loeb case, where these two young men do commit a murder together. Not really as intricate as they did, but they kind of took some liberties and made it a little homoerotic, which is totally fine with me.
Yeah. I mean, let's steal a joke from Mitch Hedberg where he said it's based on a true story. Yeah, it's inspired by a true story. You remember that time that school bus flipped over and that guy was able to lift the bus and save all the kids? Yeah, That inspired me to make a movie about a gorilla. There's a whole argument about film adaptations and whether or not
true story, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and there's there's people that are very adamantly against biographical movies. One of the women that knew Andy Kaufman personally said, after the premiere of Man on the Moon, I have no idea who that was. That was not the man that I was married to.
I thought they got straight up good reviews from like his family and shit.
Oh, from his family for sure. But there's a lot of people that like worked with Andy Kaufman that didn't see a lot of Andy in Jim Carrey's performance. Oh yeah. I didn't know that this was based off of a true case at all.
Well, no, they took a lot of liberties, but
I didn't know about this movie before we even watched it.
I was a little bit of a weird serial killer obsessed kid as a teenager, if you couldn't fucking tell.
I do love the way that the two characters were played. It's almost as if, like, neither one of them would have come up with this on their own.
I read in an interview where Ryan Gosling had mentioned the fact that he chose to play his character as if they were a bullet and a gun. Not necessarily dangerous when separate, but when put together, causes some damage, you know?
You can't have one without the other kind of situation. We start seeing Cassie chasing these loose threads. One of the things that she caught wind of that she thought was suspicious was the vomit on the crime scene.
Yeah, she's like, what the fuck is this shit? Is that puke? Bag that up.
Yeah, and anybody else would have said there's not enough DNA in there to get, a positive reading off of without, cross-referencing or whatever.
She bagged it up anyway. And the lab tech was the coolest fucking character, and she was only in there for like 2 minutes.
Oh, she was great.
She was great. She was all like, lucky your boy is a little squeamish, and gave us a little blood.
And in the vomit, they found caviar. And she follows that thread to every restaurant that sells caviar.
Or may sell caviar.
And
leads to this one called Maison C'est Quoi?
She is under the impression that it is Richard, which she's correct.
Well, technically no, because that was Justin's puke.
Yes, but she didn't know that.
She was assuming it was Richard.
She's assuming it's Richard because she believes Richard is the only one who could have been connected, given, it was his boots. All he had to do was toss them away, and then he has an alibi. He was gone for about 15 minutes when the murder was to have taken place. There was breadcrumbs.
They placed them there.
They did, but the things that they did not, he gave himself an alibi with a picture of himself at the ATM, and there was no alibi for Justin, which she had no idea who Justin was until she goes to this restaurant and asks if there's any boys, buying caviar.
She asked if Richard Haywood comes in, and she's like, the guy was like, oh no, the only high schooler that even comes in here is Justin Pendleton. And she's like, who the fuck is this little fucker? So she follows up with that, and then he's all like,
oh yeah.
Just super awkward.
No part of their plan ever assumed that they were going to get to Justin, of course. So when she asks him about Richard, he starts fumbling and just like
grasping at straws. He doesn't know what to say.
He's not laying out any information. There is nothing to tie him to the crime other than caviar and the puke. Him being at the place that sold caviar.
The same night that the murder went down, though.
Exactly. But that's not enough to be admissible in court.
Honestly, if he would have puked, he mentions, when they met up, that he didn't even remember puking. If he remembered he puked, he should have been the one to fucking call in the murder, or call in the body. So he could have said, I saw it and I fucking puked.
Yeah.
I would have done that. If I was part of it and I puked, I would have been like, shit. 911. There's a fucking body in the woods. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm just a loner. I hang out in the woods. That's what I would have done.
This is when Cassie starts really getting close to catching these boys, and when they're trying to push for Sam to finish the investigation.
Yeah.
And it leads them to Ray, their fall guy, the weed dealer. And
the janitor at the high school.
The janitor at the high school who owns a baboon, which ties into the murder in a bizarre way.
Because they place a baboon hair on her.
Yes, and everything just comes together for Justin and Richard.
It comes together too perfectly. They set it up too well. And Cassie is immediately suspicious. Everyone else is like, oh, it's fucking open and shut case. This is easy shit. But she's like, this doesn't fucking fit. It fits too well. And so she still pursues.
Yeah, and when she gets a hold of Lisa, I believe her name is.
Yeah.
and interrogates her. They interrogate her. They bring in the two boys.
They didn't really interrogate. They follow up with her and they're just like, hey, what's this relationship with you guys? And then she just kind of spills all the beans, as much as she knows, I'm sure.
Yeah. And they bring in the two boys and start interrogating them. And that was my favorite scene of the movie, was Richard and Justin in the interrogation room at the police station. That was my favorite scene in the movie. I love that gritty, realistic police work, detective work. That stuff was awesome.
Yeah, it was good shit.
And of course, before they're putting the squeeze on these two boys. They're like, hey, your buddy's already talking. Whoever gives us anything we can work with would probably get off easy. The person that actually killed her is the one that's going to be going to jail for life. Mm-hmm. And right before, like, they're putting the squeeze on these two boys real hard. And right before,
Richard was like just about to spill some beans.
He was just about to crack when his lawyer walks in the door.
He's like, charge them or let them go. Blah, blah, blah.
Because his dad's rich.
Daddy is rich.
And then this leads to Richard kind of using
being a little bitch
on a payphone, decides to cooperate. Or does he? Because rather than calling the police and then going in to talk more, he meets with Justin down by the beach in that abandoned beach house that we saw at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, on the cliff.
On the cliff with two guns. And they recite like some weird pact to each other.
A pact. Wait. One cannot live fully without embracing suicide and crime. A pact made with relentless fire that requires while some live, others die. Yes.
It was a good opening to the movie, but then it just kind of went nowhere until it came back. I felt like it was kind of weak. However,
it was their thing.
The twist to it, I thought, was really cool, which is they're about to pull the trigger. They get to the count of 3, and Justin fires his gun in the air and is like, I've got bullets in mine. Do you got yours?
And then Richard opens up the chamber and they're fucking empty. Yeah,
he was going to let Justin just shoot himself and be like, Justin did it, and then he killed himself. How weird is that?
How weird is that?
And that's when Cassie shows up for the final gunfight, and we get a pretty good climactic, shootout between the two of them. He does this weird fake out where he pretends to shoot himself and fall down a hole. Mm-hmm. And when she comes into that room, he just sneaks up behind her.
I'm sure she fucking knew that he wouldn't have killed himself because he's too fucking arrogant and narcissistic to
it was also just goofy as hell. Fuck it. That's my gun sound effect.
Boom. Kapow.
Boom. We come to Richard and Cassie on a balcony that's dilapidated. Word of the day, dilapidated.
Dilapidated.
Falling apart or in rough shape, in need of repair. Dilapidated.
That's my life.
Dilapidated, yeah. They get to this just intense one-on-one grappling for each other's lives. Cassie's trying to just stay alive, and Richard is just trying to kill her and is strangling her and fucking licks her face.
I loved that scene. I don't care. You didn't like it, but the reason I love it is because it was meant to just portray how fucking deranged he really was.
I just thought it was a little goofy. There's that really thin line of uncomfortable shit that puts you in a sense of unease as an audience member in a story. And then there's that stuff that just takes you out of the moment. And for me, that is where the line was crossed.
I disagree. Mainly because, it was totally... In the interview I had read... Yes, shut up. Sandra Bullock was also a producer on the movie. She encouraged Ryan Gosling because she's like, there's something just not clicking. There's something missing. I want something that pushes this to the edge. Just go for it. Go all out. Just whatever you want to do to me. This is what, pretty much what she was saying in the interview is she told him, whatever you feel would push it as far as you can, do it.
And he was great up until the lick.
He was screaming and laughing in her face and just choking her out and just shaking her, and it was intense, and it was a very uncomfortable moment. And the lick, to me, for that part, made it just absolutely uncomfortable. And I feel it was absolutely meant to. It was meant to be uncomfortable. But for you, it pulled you out of the movie. Whereas for me, it was just oh God, he's so fucked up. He licked her. Yuck!
Now, you mentioned Sandra Bullock was a producer on this movie.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even think about being, she was the star. She produced it.
Funny thing is, I don't even consider her part of, the star of the movie, but that's me.
She had a big part.
Well, no shit. She was the star.
Yeah.
But my personal, emotional attachment to it does not say that she is the star of the movie.
Right. Now, when I think about who is attached to as producer, it makes me think about who wanted this story to be told. And I think that does say a lot as to how Sandra Bullock felt about this story, about a powerful woman in the police force. She must have connected with this story in such a way that she wanted this to be told. And I think that's pretty neat. Well, that's pretty neat.
Well, that's neat.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty neat.
Okay, Gerald.
While I am looking back on it, having let it stew, I do think there's a little bit more to this than what I first thought when I had first watched it and then subsequently lost
a good
about 45 minutes of audio about talking about it.
And then another,
30 minutes?
30 minutes.
Oh, man. I was a little harsh on this movie.
You were, fucking dick.
While I still believe it did not age nearly as well as other movies did.
No, it's still an interesting movie. A lot of old-timey movies are still good movies that they don't age well, but they're still funny and they're still good, or they're still interesting stories.
Yeah, and when I say it didn't age well, I mean mostly
any sort of references, pop culture references.
Not just pop culture references. I mean, specifically, it feels like a product of its time. It feels like an early 2000s movie. I'm talking about the style of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
The way that, the cinematography, the way that it's structured, it feels very of its time. Modern movies have a specific feel. Movies in the 80s have a specific feel. And I talked about this with the Princess Bride episode that we did. That
I didn't do.
There's just something about it that feels timeless. It feels like it's more modern than its contemporaries, Same thing with Beetlejuice. I could have sworn Beetlejuice was mid-90s.
Well, that was late 80s.
It was 86, I think. 84.
No. I promise you
Google.
Late 80s. Late 80s. I don't have my phone, so go for
Beetlejuice.
it. Beetlejuice.
1988. Something like Beetlejuice or Princess Bride, to reference movies we've talked about, or The Boondock Saints even. They feel much more timeless. They feel more modern than this did. And Tim Burton really started a trend, that weird trend of, big, elaborate, goofy movies. These big gothic scenery, that kind of style that Beetlejuice continued on through the early 90s and mid 90s, which is why it feels timeless. Boondock Saints, however, feels timeless because it didn't rely on any technology, any references. It just had a very modern kind of storytelling to it. It didn't feel like your standard point and shoot, record cinematography. It felt really handheld and in your face in moments. Now, I do want to give this movie a new score, having, really thought about it.
Really?
Really, really, really.
I'm going to stick with mine because, when I was younger, I loved this movie, but, rewatching it, it didn't hold up for me. I don't love it still, but I don't hate it.
Now, Jacqueline, how many Jack snacks do you give?
I'm still going to give it a 3 out of 5.
You give it a 3 out of 5?
3 out of 5 Jack snacks.
I'm bumping my score up.
Yeah?
Just a little bit.
3.5?
3.5 Mike and Ike's out of 5.
Actually, no, they're not terrible.
You know what's fun? Take a Mike and Ike and suck on it until the coating comes off and you're left with just the gelatin in the middle.
Yuck, no! I hate that texture.
Unflavored gelatin.
What kind of a fucking monster are you that just takes away the flavor and just wants the gelatin?
You enjoy the flavor first. I did the same thing with Skittles. I would suck on Skittles until they were completely pale white, and then they become malleable because they lost a lot of that starch. And then I would mold it with my fingers into little vampire teeth and stick it on my little canines.
Oh my god.
That's what I would do when I would go to the movies.
Get out of my fucking house.
But first, let's watch something.
Let's watch something.